Hello. So, welcome to day 4 of my honey advent. And today I thought it would be really nice to share my mentor's honey. So, when I first started keeping bees, this chap, Chris Wright, who lives in Castle Carey, he put some of his bees in my hive that my husband had bought me. And then he taught me beekeeping. So, I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing now if it wasn't for this chap. And he sells his honey. He's got a lot of hives. He's got a few hundred hives all around Castle Carey and this area. And so he's probably the second biggest honey producer in this area. And he does do really good honey. And I've got this one because it is my favorite. It's Dandelion.
Mhm.
So, Dandelion, you can see the color. This is crystallized. When it's fresh, it can be really golden, a really bright golden color. And when you see it in the hive, you know it's dandelion, partly because of the smell, but also the pollen is bright yellow. So as the bees run around the hive, they leave like yellow footprints. So you see really yellow wax and you smell it and it's like, oh wow, it's like a lemon curd, but then it's much, much richer. So this is dandelion honey, and I was really excited because he doesn't label his honey as a single variety source, but this was a spring harvest, and it's good. So when you smell it, there is. I had this the other day, didn't I? One that's a bit smelly feet, and one of the characteristics of dandelion is the smelly feet. And when I started the training in Italy, there was two honeys that are quite similar. It's dandelion and sunflower. And both of them, because they'll crystallize like this, and they'll also be quite bright yellow. They have a bright color. And when you're studying honey and when you're judging them, you have honey samples in like a wine glass. So you haven't got any telltale signs, it will be in the wine glass. But the consistency of this is quite similar to the consistency of sunflower, but sunflower is probably brighter orange, brighter yellow. Whereas this one, as it crystallizes, it goes paler, but when it's liquid, it's a very bright orangey yellow. So the smell is very slightly smelly feet, and that's a bit of a telltale sign for dandelion. But I'm going to taste it now. So you can taste the crystals, you can sense them. It is a bit grainy. Oh, it's quite lactic. So it's quite a creamy, milky honey. And your mouth just waters. It fills up with water when you put this in your mouth. And it's not too sweet. And then as it dissolves, you just get this oh gosh, I can't remember the descriptions. It's a bit bananas. It's it's got a really, really distinctive flavour. And all the words have completely gone out of my head, but it is my favourite. And whenever I've gone around the world and people say, "What is your favourite honey?" When I have a dandelion honey, it's like nothing else. It is just so lovely, creamy. It is lactic, just absolutely beautiful. And and it is distinctive, a bit like the cider is very distinctive. So when you've had a dandelion honey, you know it. But yeah, so it's short and sweet because I haven't done my proper prep and I've forgotten. It's just completely gone out of my head. I had some notes here and now I don't know where they are um, about dandelion, but it is my favourite honey. I've done lots of tastings with dandelion and I do love it. But I think the characteristic is this it is that sort of smelly feet, which does sort of carry on. Um, and really creamy. You've got the tiny little crystals, so a bit like sand. So it's quite gritty. And dandelion does crystallize because you have a lot of pollen in dandelion. So when the bees are collecting the honey, they do also pick up a lot of dandelion pollen. And so that will go into the honey. And the crystallization is where the molecules, the sugar molecules, so the glucose molecules, will actually form crystals around any particles. So the pollen are particles that you'll get in the honey, very microscopic, and the molecules of the glucose, and it's high in glucose, dandelion honey, that actually forms the crystallization. But it doesn't very often go really hard. Some honeys will go rock hard. This always stays a bit creamy. It will still move around the jar a bit, but it's an absolutely splendid honey. And Chris, if you've read my book Artist to Bees, there's the story of how I met Chris and how he started to put bees in my hive. And he was actually walking his dog in the field behind the house, and I was still bedbound and I wasn't even in a wheelchair then. And I would look out the window and I'd see people walking their dogs. And he was a new person. I hadn't noticed him before. And he had a really characteristic sort of gait. He was sort of lollopy, and his dog also sort of lolloped. And they zigzagged around the field. And when I phoned up the Somerset Beekeeping Association and then went through to Castle Carey, and there was this number saying swarm collector, and I phoned that number, and that was actually Chris. And
Oh.
when I said, "Oh, I've got this beehive, but I need some bees," and he just guessed who I was and where I was, and he said, "I've walked past there," and I went, "I know who you are. You've got to be the dog walker." So it's very special, and I suppose it was his honey that was the honey that I would take to have local honey for my own health. And it's really lovely that he was my mentor. I was this crazy woman that challenged everything he taught me. Um, and it is lovely. It's lovely when we meet up because he's very scientific. So
Yeah.
it was a good exercise for me because when I challenged things, I had to back it up with science. So I'm
Yeah.
really, really grateful to
Yeah.
Chris.
It sounds like with that honey that you're actually tasting sunshine.
Yes, yes. And of course, dandelions is so important for bees because quite often they're the first real run of nectar for the bees,
Mm.
and pollen. So they need the pollen, that's the protein for all the larvae. And in early spring, so April is when you get the dandelions, they need it because the colony is expanding really quickly. And so they need the pollen, they need the nectar. And it is actually very difficult to harvest dandelion honey because you've got to have the weather right. And what happens sometimes is you get this amazing April where you've got fields full of dandelions, the bees are really busy, and then the weather could turn in May. And when it turns, the bees need to feed off the dandelion honey, and it's too cold to open the
Mm.
hives to take the honey. So by the time you do open the hives, you find all the dandelion honey is gone, but it has kept your bees alive. So it always feels a really special gift when I can harvest dandelion honey, and you just smell it when you open up the hive. But yeah, it's a bit sort of lemon curdy, a bit of bananas. But yeah, really, really wonderful smell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How far away would bees go to get to dandelions, for instance?
well,
How
bees
many miles?
they'll fly like a 3 to 5 mile radius around their hive.
Hmm.
But this is the reason that honeybees shouldn't be moved into areas because they will always go to the closest nectar source. So if you moved a beehive, say, into an orchard and there's lots of other bee species, the honeybees will actually take most of the food.
Hmm.
And because they fly further, it's not really fair because the other bees, they
Hmm.
don't travel very far, so they haven't got the choice. But the honeybees can travel. And then this is where communication is important because the electrical field of the plants when they need pollinating that radiates out and calls the bees in, so
Hmm.
then they know where they have to go to collect the nectar.
Yeah.
So if the dandelion field was a couple of miles away, the bees would like hear this song of the dandelions, and then they would know that how far they've got to travel and what direction.
Yeah.
So it's all very clever.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I do a plant fair at Yarlington House, which is just down the road, and the Countess and Count have these wonderful, huge fields, absolutely chocker with dandelions in them. And we used to joke that she held the national collection of dandelions. And I know, and I'm just wondering whether honeybees could just sort of be plunked in that field. Maybe she has honey, I don't know. But it just seemed to me that would be a wonderful source of pollen and
Yeah.
whatever for the bees.
Well, you often see roundabouts. There's a roundabout near Wincanton that always has a lot of dandelions on it, and you often see beekeepers move a hive into the middle of that
Oh,
roundabout. So, yeah, just to get the
interesting. Yeah,
dandelions because it is
yeah,
so good.
yeah. We seem to have an abundance in Somerset.
We do, we do. Well, and they need a certain soil. So the dandelions, they have really long, deep tap roots,
Yes.
and they go deep down
I
into the soil to break down the calcium and magnesium and
know.
bring it up to the surface. And so if they've already got actually, is it potassium in the soil, then the dandelions can't grow. So they are a sort of indicator of what minerals you have in your
Yeah.
soil, and you
Well,
actually see them marching across landscapes.
because I mean, this area is a limestone area, isn't it? So you've got lots of calcium, I would imagine, in the rocks.
Yes. Yeah. So they break it down, bring it up to the
Mm.
surface, and this is why dandelions are good for us to eat. You can eat every bit of a dandelion,
Yeah.
and they have been shown to be highly medicinal and really powerful. So extracts of the roots have been used in tumor reduction, you
Oh.
know, and of course dandelions are known to be diuretic. So when I was a kid, you're always told if you pick a dandelion, you're going to wet the bed.
Yes, I
Um,
had the same rumor.
yeah,
Didn't
and it
work.
was because they were used as a diuretic, so they will help keep the flow going. So they are amazing. They're the best free medicine I think that we have
Mm.
in the UK, although I don't
That
think I can say that, but
Yeah, that's interesting because we used to keep pet rabbits when we were little, and strawberry leaves and dandelion leaves were considered as medicine. And occasionally they would escape, or we'd let them out on the lawn, and they go straight for the dandelions and the strawberry leaves.
yeah,
So we'd
yeah,
let them eat because we knew that they were medicine. This is what Dad taught us.
yeah.
And then when had their run around, we then encouraged them to go back in the pens.
Oh, yeah. No, it makes a good tea, dandelion tea. I harvest the leaves and then, dry them out and then have them as a tea because 'cause they're good.
Mm, yeah,
Right. So
right.
thank you,
That's all
and
right.
join me tomorrow, and I'll
What
let
time?
everyone know in the calendar what the next honey is.
Yeah, and what time it will be.
Yeah, I think I've put the time. I think it's quite early in the morning, actually. It's 7:30 in the morning tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're heading off early, so I wanted to do
Of
it before
course.
I head
Yeah.
off anywhere.
I might miss that one. I might still have my head in the sink washing my hair or something.
Oh, okay. Thank you.